وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض، له الملك وله الحمد وهو على كل شيء قدير. هو الذي خلقكم فمنكم كافر ومنكم مؤمن، والله بما تعملون بصير. خلق السماوات والأرض بالحق وصوركم فأحسن صوركم وإليه المصير. يعلم ما في السماوات والأرض ويعلم ما تسرون وما تعلنون، والله عليم بذات الصدور. ألم يأتكم نبأ الذين كفروا من قبل فذاقوا وبال أمرهم ولهم عذاب أليم. ذلك بأنه كانت تأتيهم رسلهم بالبينات فقالوا أبشر يهدوننا فكفروا وتولوا واستغنى الله، والله غني حميد. زعم الذين كفروا أن لن يبعثوا، قل بلى وربي لتبعثن ثم لتنبؤن بما عملتم وذلك على الله يسير. فآمنوا بالله ورسوله والنور الذي أنزلنا، والله بما تعملون خبير. يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع، ذلك يوم التغابن، ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يكفر عنه سيئاته ويدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا، ذلك الفوز العظيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله الكريم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بفضل الله، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. Many a time you're driving along and you're driving smoothly, then something hazardous occurs along the way. There's a bump. For some reason you feel that I'm out of control for a moment. You need to recalibrate and continue along the way. Sometimes it requires much more movement, and in some cases it's like second nature. It was as if there was no bump on the road, and you continue along the path that you have taken. This is the problem with doubt. The problem with doubt is when a doubt occurs, it causes something to become obscure, causes something to become vague. It causes you to have, you could say, a loss of senses somewhat. And then you become so dubious and doubtful in what action that you are undertaking. But why do people become doubtful? Where does this doubt stem from? Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, says, الشك ثمرة الجهل. That doubt is the product of ignorance. That when you don't understand something, or you don't have the understanding that is required, any moment someone throws a spanner in the works, you get lost. Someone comes up to you and says, why are there so many religions? You're a Muslim, why are there so many sects? You're a Shia, why are there so many maraja? Why are there so many opinions? And they start throwing these around, and the people start doubting the existence of God. Why do they get to that point immediately? Why do they start to doubt everything? What is the cause of this? Just before we go forward, this is something I mention so often, not only on the Mambar And this is like a disclaimer for you to keep in mind. Whenever someone asks you these questions, or begins to ask you what happens to an Eskimo in Greenland, or what happens to a hunter in the Kalahari, or what happens to someone that lives in Timbuktu, what is their case or their plight, I always use these same 3 verses. The first one of these 3 verses is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, where Allah mentions about Ashab al-Kahf. He says, إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ وَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. That he mentions that they were fitya, they were youth. How that we're talking about not in the special meaning of fitya, in the general meaning of fitya. It means that they were youth. آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ. That these youth were with a king, Decius, or Decianus, as is mentioned in Arabic in the narrations, during the rule of the Roman Empire. And they had a moment where they had clarity, and they said, it's impossible that Decius has created the world. There is a creator, there is a God. That moment of clarity was enough for Allah Azza wa Jal to elevate their position. Not only their position is elevated, we have narrations that of the animals that enter paradise, one of them is the dog of Ashab al-Kahf. Even the dog has this station because of their position that they thought for a moment and they believed in God. That was it. It doesn't mention ittaba'u Rasul. No. They had a moment. They saw haqq, they followed haqq. The other thing that I mentioned so many times is that everyone that goes to hell and everyone that is punished is culpable. And they're not being sentenced, as we do in Australian law, we have, for you to be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt. In Islam, there is no reasonable or doubt. You are asked, in fact, the people that are sentenced to the fire of hell, God keep us aloof from the fire of hell, bi barakat as-salat ala Muhammed wa ali Muhammad. They are told, كُلَّمَا أُلْقِيَ فِيهَا فَوْجٌ سَأَلَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ نَذِيرٌ. That every time a group or a party is put forth into the fire of hell, the keeper of hell will ask them, did not someone warn you? And this is where they can't lie anymore. This is where everything is revealed. قَالُوا بَلَى, yes. قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ, yes, we were warned. فَكَذَّبْنَا, we belied him. وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنْ أَنْتُمْ إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ. That we belied them and said, God did not reveal anything, you are in great error. Then they would say, وَقَالُوا لَوْ, oh, if كُنَّا نَسْمَعْ أَوْ نَعْقِلْ, if we would take heed to what was being said, مَا كُنَّا فِي أَصْحَابِ السَّعِيرِ, we would not be the companions of the flames of the fire. فَاعْتَرَفُوا بِذَنْبِهِمْ, فَاعْتَرَفُوا, in other words, that they confess that they are worthy of hell. No one turns up because what's going on? What is this place? I never saw this, I never heard. No, the people that are condemned know the deal. So that's another thing you've got to keep in mind. So before someone asks you these dubious questions, God is not less merciful than you. So don't think, if you say, I wouldn't punish someone that doesn't know. Do you think God will punish someone that doesn't know? He's making it clear. Finally, God does not punish someone that's in the process of acquiring. The second one, the first one said Surah Kahf, the second one's in Surah Al-Mulk. The first verse in Surah Al-Nisa says, وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ مِنْ بَيْتِهِ مُهَاجِرًا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتِ. So if someone is in the process of finding God and his messenger is heading to find the path, and suddenly they die, they're in the process of finding the truth. Then the verse says, faqad. Faqad means most certainly. فَقَدْ وَقَعَ أَجْرُهُ عَلَى اللَّهِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. That their reward is with God. Allah is what? Forgiving, merciful. So before someone comes with these doubtful questions and says, oh, so a non-Muslim goes to hell. Yes, a non-Muslim that knows Islam is the right religion and rejects it goes to hell. There is no doubt about it. Someone that sees right from wrong and does not accept it, there's no doubt. This is how we'll begin. Just as a disclaimer. But where is doubt born? Where does it come from? What is it that brings about doubt to begin with? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam mentions 4 branches here, or 4 things that bring about doubt. These are the 4 things that bring about doubt. The first one that he mentions that brings about the doubt, he says, the first one he says, الشك firstly, على 4 شعب. The first one he says, على التماري. التماري, if someone itmara, is someone that debates for no reason. You know, they have a desire to doubt everything. Whatever you say, they want to question it. This is the first thing that brings about doubt. That everything you mention, they go, where did you get this from? You know, something like so simple, I'll tell you. You know, when you say that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam had ilm al-ghayb, had knowledge of the unseen or the unknown. They said, Shu amiltu Allah, astaghfirullah, you made him God. You say, I have ilm al-ghayb. How? I'll tell you something I'll tell you what time the sun's going to rise, and it will be the time I say it. We have some kind of knowledge, but what the Prophet has is wider. What they don't understand, if the Prophet did not have ilm al-ghayb, then what was he doing here? Imagine like he turned up and told us what we know. He says, what was your birthday? Yeah. You were born then, that year, this happened, that. Yeah, we know that. We read the papers then. What's going to happen hereafter? I don't know. How am I supposed to tell you? If he has no idea about what's going to happen or what there is, what's his job? What was his job? So they said, astaghfirullah, these people be allihu ahlul bayt. Or if you mention to someone now, we're in the days of the martyrdom of Rasulullah, yes, the martyrdom of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and you told people the Prophet was poisoned, they go, this person is what? Ta'ifi. He's causing problems between the sects. Why? Because he says the Prophet was poisoned. But the same people that poisoned the Prophet were the same people that orchestrated the murder of Fatima al-Zahra, were the same people that ordered for the body of Imam Hassan to be showered with arrows. You accept these two, but when it comes to the martyrdom of the Prophet, kabiri. This is what brings about this. They just want to debate to bring out their argument to be correct. The second thing, and I'll go on to say what Amir al-Mu'mineen says about each one. The second thing he says, al-hawl. Al-hawl is when someone's apprehensive, he's got apprehension, he's dismayed, he dreads things, you know, it's like a fear. And I'll explain what each one is, I'll go along, that's the second one. The third one, he says, at-taraddud, is when someone, at-taraddud is when someone sways to and fro. They're always wavering, you know. They got one foot in this section, they put another foot in the other section. They don't know which way to go. And finally is al-istislam. That's when someone yields or submits, when we say undue submission. In a way, what they yield to the amr al-waqa, or the amr that they see, what they see in front of them. You know, they see everyone, you know, gets a Christmas tree on Christmas Day. They go get a Christmas tree on Christmas Day. You know, everyone goes to the pub after work. They go to the pub after work. They just follow whatever system. You know, they say when in Rome, do as the Romans do. These people do exactly what they're told in this manner. Now, the first one, the ones that debate everything, they are the ones that have skepticism. Okay? They always say, nah, not sure, don't think so. And they want to argue the point. See, the problem is with people getting doubtful, once something is conclusive, don't reopen it. You've reached conclusive, you are certain. Like the belief in God, you are certain God exists. Don't reopen this. You're certain you've closed that. Do you honestly, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you enter your science classroom? Do you walk into chemistry, for example, and tell them, listen, iron's not a metal. You know, it's an inert gas. Let's debate this. No, it's solved, it's given. Iron's a metal. It's foregone. I don't need to bring it up every time. Do I walk into a maths class and say, hold on, let's prove the Pythagoras theorem again? I don't think it works on right angle triangles. Doesn't work. Let's start again. Is that what you do? No, it's a given. You've solved this, you move on. You don't go back to it. And the problem is when someone gets any doubts, they start re-examining everything again. And this is what these skeptics do. The thing is, you need to worry about what's dubious, whatever is doubtful, whatever the point they brought is doubtful, do not revamp what is what firm. Okay? This is the way of Iblis that he brings back. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, okay, فَمَنْ جَعَلَ الْمِرَاءَ دَيْدَنَا لَمْ يُصْبِحْ لَيْلُهُ. The one that always resorts to unreasonable debating, لَمْ يُصْبِحْ لَيْلُهُ means that his وجه الضوء ما بيطلع. Do you know what I mean? They'll never see the light. It always will be dark. Their life is dark. There's no light in their life. There's no nur for them to ihtadi bi. There's no light in front of them for them to be guided. You ever seen those people? I remember one guy that put up on his, you know those Insta mullahs. He went and put up, question everything. Question God, question the question. Shakkik. Question God, and God says in the Quran, Afillahi shak. Is there any doubt in the existence of God? He says, question God. Question everything. Doubting Thomas. The people that want to doubt everything that they see. Question it again. Yes, even after you believe, re-question it. Where's this come from? Why is it for everything else we accept it? Could you imagine every time I'm about to enter a boat, I say, hold on, I don't believe in buoyancy anymore. Let me research it. Let's make sure. Oh, it's made out of metal. This thing's going to be buoyant. I can't believe this. Let me reassess this situation again. Do you imagine you did this every time? Why, as it comes to God, they do this? They will live in darkness eternally. Because I finish one, I move on to the next. Don't go back to the beginning every time. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, لا ترتابوا فتشقوا. He says, do not be too skeptical. He says, because then you will start to doubt. ولا تشقوا فتكفروا. Then when you become doubtful, you will disbelieve. If you sit there and start, all right, oh my God, this can't be possible. You know, like, how often every year? Why is it every year we have to reiterate to people why we fast in Shahr Ramadan? Every year we have to reiterate to people why we do majlis for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Every year, honestly, before ziyarah, you know how many people contact me and tell me, what is the purpose of ziyarat al-Arba'in? Every year, same questions. They ask why? Because some devil spoke to them. Some devil popped up to them and said, look at these people. Look at these. They're walking. What they're walking for? What's the purpose of this? And this same person that says, what's the purpose of walking? He goes to Hajj wearing 2 towels with no underwear and throws rocks at a wall. Do you understand what I mean? He has an issue with this. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you need to understand what you are doing, and once it's established, it's established. There's no more doubt anymore. There's no more doubt when people tell you, and you see the mu'mineen, when it comes to Ziyarat al-Hussein, honestly, I know people, I know many people that they're frugal in their spending. When it comes to Ziyarat al-Hussein, they throw their money and they go. They're frugal in spending. When it comes to Ziyarat al-Hussein, they know this is the investment. They know this is the ultimate investment. Then we talk about al-hawl, the dread and dismay that some people have. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, وَمَنْ هَالَهُ مَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ نَكَسَ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ. So what does that mean? You know when you see the verse, يَنْقَلِبَ عَلَى عَقِبَيْهِ. The one who is afraid, what befalls them is they go back to what they think that they were on. You know, sometimes you bring someone towards Islam and they go, yeah, but it's too much. Bit of a step for me, and they back off. You think they're there. He goes, I'm going to come take my shahada, backs off. I'm going to accept this, they back off. You meet someone, you talk to them about someone about Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, they're there, and you think they're getting closer to come majlis, the next second they're no more again. And their beards under their chest, making sure that they're back, because they fear that step forward. They dread, you know, and because of that dread, because you need bravery to move forward. The people that came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, السابقون الأولون من المهاجرين والأنصار. These people that came to Rasulullah at the start, they were not just normal people. When Uthman ibn Affan, because he wasn't one of the runners that came forward, yeah, he was a runner, but for going backwards, not forward. Now, when he came to call the people, he used to call Al-Khabbab ibn al-Arat, Radwanullahi ta'ala alayh, the companion of Rasulullah. He used to tell him to uncover his back in front of the people to show them his back. Al-Khabbab was the 6th person to accept Islam. His back was mutilated because Quraysh used to heat stones and drag him along the stones. He'd say, look at this man, how much torture he endured just to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Obviously, he had no scars to show himself. They had nothing to show, so they would use them. These people that were the foremost, that came to Islam right at the start, that followed Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam during difficulty. So, if I have this fear of accepting what is true, then I become disgusted by the truth and feel safe when it comes to falsehood, out of my fear. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen says about the taraddud. وَمَنْ تَرَدَّدَ فِي الرَّيْبِ وَطِئَتْهُ سَنَابِقُ الشَّيَاطِينِ. He says, وَمَنْ تَرَدَّدَ فِي الرَّيْبِ. Whoever is hesitant in doubt, the ones I was saying sway to and fro, they're hesitant with doubt. You know, one day they're on this side, then they're away. Then they're on this side, then they're away. He says, وَطِئَتْهُ سَنَابِقُ الشَّيَاطِينِ. The sun book generally is the front part of the hoof. You see an animal? So sometimes, you know when they used to depict the devil as having hoofed feet, the drawing, this depicts it in that way. The person that's hesitant is trampled by the hooves of the devils. That's what it means. But even when you refer to humans, it means their toes. So he's under their toes, like they control him. In other words, he's there. It could mean perhaps, like, with someone's toes when you're just holding them back, you're not letting them move. Rather than, so just, they're holding them down with the tip of their toe, like a cat holds down a mouse with its paw. Perhaps that's what it can mean. Because they're skeptical in this way. Finally, he says, وَمَنْ اسْتَسْلَمْ لِهَلَكَةِ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ هَلَكَ فِيهِمَا. And the one that succumbs to the perils of this world and the next is destroyed by them both. Now, and what does he mean by this? Because the one that succumbs to what is in front of them, and they just submit and yield to what happens, in other words, they're destroyed by this world. Because you see the people that follow the system. What happens to them? All the people that follow the system. The people that are you see the guy at work that follows the rules, does the right thing. Follows whatever they tell him to do. They don't give him any bonus points. Doesn't get any extra brownie points. When they want to get rid of him, they get rid of him. When his job is redundant, he's redundant. If they want to cut out anything that's changed a condition in his EBA, they'll change that condition and they'll convince him it's the right thing to do. They don't care. You follow the system. It doesn't mean you're going to be treated any better. You're okay as long as you are serving them. Once you finish, look at all these people you saw in your life. Depends on your age. All these people that sold out and yielded, they've disappeared. You don't hear about them anymore. They've just disappeared. They're off the radar. You don't hear about them anymore. They were used. Their purpose is finished. They're gone. They're still talking, but they don't get the same platforms that they had before because their best before date's done. They still are useful, but not useful enough. So they are destroyed in this world. They've lost their reputation with the righteous in this world, and they're destroyed in the hereafter. One of the things that causes people to doubt is, for example, I'll sit there and say, oh, I'm a Sheikh. I'm going to give a lecture. Doesn't matter if I commit a sin or two. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't matter. I'm above that. I'm going to be treated better. God's going to treat me better. Oh, I helped someone today. This is insolence. See, Iblis, and yes, you should compare yourself when you talk, that I can be like Iblis. Iblis worshipped for 6,000 years. And his pride and his arrogance and his insolence made him fall to become min asfal as-safilin, of the worst of the worst. There are still people beneath him, but he's right at the bottom. What caused him to fall, even though he had 6,000 years of worship, is this insolence. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, Man ata an amr Allahi shak. Whoever is over proud about with regard to the command of God will start to doubt. When they become, that's for them. I remember one guy, he said he went and sat, one of those guys that's got one of the channels that likes to talk, the ones with verbal diarrhea, they keep talking, they don't make any sense. This guy, once he said, when I actually thought he was someone of substance, he said, I went and asked him, I need to give a talk. Can you advise me? He said to him, you're talking to these ignoramuses. You can say whatever you want, they'll swallow it up. He had no respect for anyone around him. Because it's actually fact, he was overproud. For him, he's doing the Lord's work. He's above this. He's not one of the laity. He shouldn't be treated like everyone else. He sees himself when he turns up. He actually thinks that when he dies, he probably is going to get, as if he's in first class. Mr. So-and-so, your seat is right there. Welcome. And he's going to walk around. Someone's going to carry his kafan and all this, and he's going to get the royal treatment. But whoever has this arrow of pride, they begin to doubt. And then he says, Amir al-Mu'min, وَمَنْ شَكَّ تَعَالَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. Ta'ala, Allah Azza wa Jal, then shows him what? Allah shows him that he is most sublime above him. Shows how his might over him. He says, فَأَذَلَّهُ بِسُلْطَانِهِ. He will humiliate him in this way. وَصَغَّرَهُ بِجَلَالِهِ. So he will disgrace him with his authority. He will belittle him with his might. And then he says, كَمَا اخْتَرَّ بِرَبِّهِ الْكَرِيمِ وَفَرَّتَ فِي أَمْرِهِ. Because he has shown contempt for the command of God. He sees the command of God. You seen those people? They tell you, you remember they had that guy, that clown that used to talk, and they finally took him off the mumbar and they got rid of him. Where he said, اذنب وروح الحسين, اذنب وروح الحسين. The one that was telling everyone, just go commit sin, go do. This guy doesn't even call to God. He calls for the show. Alhamdulillah, they removed him off the mumbar because of the problems he was causing. Telling people, basically, he was advocating adultery. He was advocating everything. There are people that tell you, hey, Zurt al-Hussein, I can go do what I want now. I went to Hajj, I can go do what I want now. Talabtu al-ilm, I can go do what I want now. And this is what you find the command of God to be what? You show contempt, you find it as something not worthy. Allah Azza wa Jal will disgrace you and belittle you. This is what brings about doubt. So you start doubting the command of God. This is where al-amn min makr Allah comes from this, it stems from this. Now let's look at the factors that dispel doubt. How do I get rid of doubt? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam says, he says, بِتَقَرُّرِ الْفِكْرِ يَنْجَابُ الشَّكِّ. Okay? How do I dispel doubt? He says through repetition of one's thought processes. What is it that I need to be thinking about? The verse in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَأَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا سُبْحَانَكَ فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. When you sit and think about the creation, you look around and you think about the creation around you, everything in creation. Look at every single thing around. You know, one of the best things to watch those animal documentaries, and mute David Attenborough. You just mute him and watch and see what you can, rather than this guy. Honestly, I was watching Planet Earth, the first one. You know, it's nice when you have the British narrator that comes over the voiceover that comes over the story. But then he began Planet Earth. Do you know how he began it? He says, through chance and the light of the sun, life began. And I sat there and I thought, through chance and the light of the sun. Ayyuhal ahmaq. The sun, where did it come from? Where did the sun come from? You know, for many years, people go to school, they go, energy isn't conserved. No, it's not. Matter's conserved. No, it's not. Matter can be created, matter can be destroyed. Energy can be created, energy can be destroyed. But in the physical laws, energy is conserved. In the physical laws, matter is conserved. Physical laws. But there's metaphysical. There's the laws that transcend, the things that bring things min al-adami ila al-wujud. Things that did not exist that suddenly exist. That's why Amir al-Mu'mineen in Nahj al-Balagha, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, so much that we are indebted to the doorway to the city of knowledge. He says, عَجِبْتُ لِمَنْ شَكَّ فِي اللَّهِ وَهُوَ يَرَى خَلْقَ اللَّهِ. He says, I am amazed at the one that what? Doubts God, the one that has doubt of the existence of God, and they see the creation of God. How do you doubt God when you see creation? And it's something you so simple, no one will believe. If I said to someone that this bottle just appeared there, not a single human being would believe that. But the whole universe, you and I, just suddenly appeared. And some people in this planet, they'll actually accept it and say, yes, by chance it all came about. I want to know the most basic things. They are things I don't question. The Tawheed, yani, I know it needs a whole discussion about Tawheed. Lessons upon Tawheed. But I look at the creation of God. I look at the creation, I know there's a creator. I know this creator is one creator. And I know there's justice because of the fine tuning and how this universe, the way it functions, the way it's so uniform, the way it's perfected. And I know the wisdom and the knowledge that came to me and the best characters that ever were on the earth. I know that through these prophets. They're the ones that brought the messages from this God. And then I know that this message was relayed to me all in all through 12 holy imams, through authentic narrations by all sects. Yani honestly, all sects tell you there are 12. Lam yantahi hadha al-amr. This is in Sahih Bukhari. That they say the Prophet said that this command, this order, this command of Allah does not end until when? He says, حتى يظهر من بعد 12 خليفة. Until 12 caliphs come after me. And then you want to sit in a room of confusion, get an imam from every single madhab or sect and tell them name the 12. And just get a bucket of popcorn and sit and watch. And see how they name them, where they end up going. Who these 12 are. And this is why my religion, in order to cement it, Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi says, ثبات الدين بقوة اليقين. You want your religion to be firm? You want to have your religion and stand tall wherever you are. When you sit there and you are in the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and you're hearing these people say, لو أني قتلت ثم نشرت. If I was to be killed, then brought back to life, then be burnt, and this was to happen to me 70 times, as Burair would say, and as Muslim would say 100 times. What would make someone want to, if I was to die once, that's enough to scare you. Someone actually walked, we're not talking about a movie where a guy has some smart aleck response, someone puts a gun to his head and say he gives them, no, in real life, someone actually walked in. Like I had a friend of mine when he went to Ziyarah straight after Suqut Saddam. Saddam had fallen, he said, I went to Samurat. He said, when I got there, he said a 14-year-old boy stood and said, everyone get back in the van. He said he had a Kalashnikov with him. He said, everyone get back in the van. He said, I stood there, I thought, he said I was wearing a turban, and I said, we're here to do ziyarah. He said, I told you, get back in the van. He goes, this guy was like almost prepubescent. He said he took around and he lifted the rifle towards my head. He said, Wallah, I will kill my own father. Get back in the van now. He said, I felt a chill go down my spine. I felt fear for the first time, like I've never felt it before. He said, I got straight back into that van. My whole life passed before my eyes. These people say, kill me 100 times. And there are people today who will say this, Labbaika ya Hussein. We will die so many times. Why? Because, when you hear that poem that they all recite at the end of a majalis, when you say, إحنا غير حسين ما عدنا وسيلة. This is all we have. You actually look at your actions. If I have this strength in belief in Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, this is yaqeen. This is that strength that we are talking about. Now, in these days, we are, in this month, especially on the 8th of Safar, we have the commemoration. We had a gathering where we commemorated the martyrdom of Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba. Imam Hassan's got a beautiful saying. Just before I get there, just to let you know, I've mentioned this on many occasions, aqeedah, your belief. When we say it's aqeedah, it's something that's tight, it's firm, it's supposed to be tight around your soul. That's why we call it aqeedah. Ma'quda. It doesn't come off. Your belief has to be so firm that nothing, it's unshakable. But Imam Hassan alayhi salam has a beautiful saying. He says, al-yaqinu ma'adun lis-salama. He says that yaqeen, certainty, and taban, yaqeen is the antonym, it's the opposite or the reverse of shak, of doubt. He says is ma'adh lis-salama. You know when we say ma'adh, it's like when we say a'udhu billah, it's the refuge. It's where everyone biltijit. If I need to be safe, I need to be secure, I need to have yaqeen. Take for example, saying عن الرسول محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. Just as an example, he says, من أيقن بالخلف سخط نفسه بالنفقة. من أيقن بالخلف سخط نفسه بالنفقة. That's someone that has certainty in what? Replenishment or restoration. Someone that has certainty that they will get their money back or they will get their efforts back, whatever they put in. He says that they, when we say the word zakhat, when we say someone's sakhi, someone's like very liberal or free in giving. That they give, they don't care because they know that the financier will always pay them back. So the Prophet says, this is what we're talking about, yaqeen. To have this yaqeen that Allah is a sustainer, not me. This is very, to reach, that's another discussion, to reach levels of yaqeen. You know, I want to tell you, when you want to talk about levels of yaqeen, and to understand where some people were, did you know when Musa ibn Imran alayhi salam was commanded by God to cross the sea? When he's commanded by God to cross the sea. And he told them, we have to cross the sea. And they all looked at each other. They say, Yusha ibn Nun. And some of the righteous companions of Musa began to ride their horses onto the water. And Musa called them back. He said, if you keep going, Banu Israel will all drown. Your faith is somewhere there, yaqeen is somewhere else. Your yaqeen is on another place. When they have this kind of yaqeen and they have this firm belief, and this is yaqeen is just the bottom layer, just to get in there. Taban, there's levels. There's different levels of yaqeen. But just to have yaqeen in your religion is what we're looking at. This does not mean that one has to be extravagant. Remember that. Doesn't mean that I believe God will give for me just to give to anything I see. No. Put everything in its right place. Okay, but when they ask, you know something is good and you know I'm going to benefit, do it and give. When we think about this, if we see the yaqeen as being what? Perfection, then doubt becomes a deficiency. Is all doubt bad? No. Some doubt's good. But doubt in general is a bad thing. There are exceptions when it comes to doubt. For example, if I doubt something that has falsehood in it, and then I align, that's a good thing. But if I doubt something that is true, that there's no question in the veracity of it, why would I even doubt it? Because this is how I deviate. For example, it's like illness. Is illness a good thing? No. Illness is a bad thing. There's no dua for you, oh Allah make me sick. No. All the dua, we ask for sahha and salama, don't we? All the dua is for health. But can illness be bad? Can illness be good? Yes. one of the brothers that we went to ziyarah with, a lot of you know him, that have seen him. He went to ziyarat Amir al-Mu'mineen, he went ziyarat al-Arba'in, he went ziyarat Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. When you go during that season, the hustle bustle is huge. And while he was there, from the crush, his back was affected, he couldn't walk anymore. So he continued on his ziyarah in a wheelchair. When he returned to Australia, you know what the doctor told him? He said, 1, you were lucky you went on this trip. Number 2, you're lucky this happened to you. They go, because if you hadn't got crushed, there is a bone spur going through, it would have pierced your spine and you would have become paralyzed. We noticed it from this whole incident. At the time, he said, at the time, you think I've come to ziyarah, look what's happened to me. But this illness that had come out uncovered something that was far worse. And slowly he recovered and he came back. So an illness like that awakens you to something bigger is not a bad illness. But illness in general is perceived as a bad thing. Same with doubt. Doubt in general is a bad thing, but there are exceptions. When I doubt something that is false, someone comes up and gives you a hadith, and this hadith is totally wrong, you have to question it. Someone mentions a hadith about the Messenger of God, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and you say, this can't be possible. This can't be right that the Prophet would do something like this. Yes, you question it and you research it and you find out whether it's right or wrong. But before I investigate, I need something solid to build upon, and I'll finish with this. When I begin my speeches, I always say, Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada. وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهِ. I thank Allah who has guided us to this. And had He not guided us, we would never be guided. So guidance is essential from Allah. When they asked the Imam about this line, he said, يَعْنِي هَدَانَ اللَّهُ فِي وِلَايَةِ أَمِيرِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْأَئِمَّةَ مِنْ وَلْدِهِ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّلَامُ. Guidance to this amr, hidayah to wilayah. This is what it's all about. That God has guided you to the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. If you had not been guided to this, you would have followed all kinds of religion, all kinds of things. Someone messaged me recently, about a couple of days ago, and he mentioned that he said that he saw this video where a person that had converted from Christianity to Islam, but he was following the Islam that's not under Ahlul Bayt. So it's like when you see a product, it says $99 and it's scratched out and it's still $99. It's still where they are. So he's just moved on from, he still hasn't got there. There's no Hidayah, there's no Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So one of the things he mentioned to me, he wanted to argue, he said that the Shia accuse Aisha of adultery. And we answered wrong. I said, you accuse Aisha of adultery and you exonerate her. I said, in fact, the one that accused her was the poet Hassan ibn Thabit, amongst another companions, accused her of this. And then you exonerated her, go blame that Sahabi that you say are all udul, all just. He is the one that said she's. I said, in fact, you ask all our scholars. No one says this. You find one of our ulama al-afadil, that are the people that are known, find me one of them that says this, that has mentioned this. Go get me a text of one of our ulama that says this. This is from them. They make this accusation and they defend it. And they say the Shia do this. And then they get you some guy in his little home studio that's got a YouTube channel tell you he said it. Someone that none of the ulama know even exists, but everyone on YouTube does. Because you've got to remember, when someone says to me, oh, this guy's a scholar, I go, so's Mr. Beast. He's got a lot of followers. Go follow him and see what he's got to say. Just because they're on YouTube and they're followed, they're on TikTok, they're followed. The guidance that you need to look at and is a solid guidance is what Ahl al-Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'in say. If someone, doesn't matter who they are, says something contrary to what they say, contrary to what the Quran and Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam say, then this is where you question. This is where you take a stance. But other than that, you're firm in this. Because the Prophet said, in a firm hadith, إِنِّي تَارِكٌ فِيكُمْ الثَّقَلَيْنِ. The last commandment, the most important commandment for us to stay firm upon our religion is the commandment of Rasulullah, which is known as hadith, الثَّقَلَيْنِ, that is left amongst us. Two weighty things, the book of Allah and his progeny, the Ahl al-Bayt. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to guide us upon the righteous path, the path of Muhammad wa al-Muhammad. Salawatullahi alayhim ajma'in. Allah, do not take us from this world until you are pleased with us. Do not take us from this world where there's even a speck that we will be accounted for. Oh Allah, grant us all ziyarat Abi Abdullah al-Hussein in this year and every year possible, and grant us his intercession on the Day of Judgment. Oh Allah Azza wa Jal, we ask you to hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn Hassan al-Mehdi. أرواحنا فداء. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا جميعا، ولقضاء الحوائج وقبول الأعمال وشفاء المرضى وغفران الذنوب وتعجيل الفرج وحسن العاقبة. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.